Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
I've been going out with a girl, her name is Julie, but last night she said to me when we were watching telly.
Nigel Farage, the leader of the Brexit Party, is live on LBC. Welcome to the programme. How's your day?
Eddie, it's been fine. Big decision to make, but I've made it, and I think it was the right thing to do.
You said Boris Johnson's deal was not Brexit. You're now asking people in 317 constituencies to vote for a Brexit deal that's not Brexit. How do you feel about that?
Well, last night he said two very important things. The first thing that he said was, we will absolutely leave by the end of 2020. Yes, I know what you're going to say. He said, do or die, die in a ditch, I'd leave by the 31st of October. But he said it unequivocally and clearly as part of a general election campaign. But the second thing that he said that was much more significant is he said, we will negotiate a free trade deal along the lines of a super Canada Plus and not accept political alignment. Now, when I heard that, I thought that means we're going to have to make some changes to the deal in terms of the clauses that are there in the political declaration. And that is actually beginning to take us, if he stays true to his word, taking us towards something that does now at last resemble Brexit.
Is his deal Brexit or not?
If he amends the deal in the way that he said last night, then we are heading firmly in the right direction.
But it's not Brexit, is it, in your view?
As it stands at the moment, no.
So you're saying to people in 317 constituencies, we're withdrawing. If you want Brexit, vote for this party that's not going to promise Brexit with this deal.
Well, I'm saying if the Prime Minister keeps to his promise, and it was a massive change of direction. In fact, when Mrs May gave her speech in Florence, she said, we're going for a close political partnership. Boris last night said there will be no political alignment. If he's true to his word, then the deal gets amended, and it is something like Brexit.
Isn't the reality that your conversion last night is just a fig leaf, if I may say so, to explain away changing a policy which many people told you last week you should have changed?
Oh, look, I was perfectly prepared to fight 600 seats. However...
Well, you personally weren't prepared to fight one, were you?
Well, I was going to lead the party in 600. And, on the one hand, you've got my sheer unhappiness with the so-called deal, the new EU treaty, but on the other, the increasing realisation that in parts of London, southern England, and indeed the southwest of England particularly, the result of our standing would have been a lot of Liberal Democrats getting elected. And I began to think, if me standing up for principle led to an alliance in Parliament that forced a second referendum upon us with all the misery...
People were telling you this last week, though, Nigel Farage, and you ignored them.
I ignored them because, at that stage, the Prime Minister had not moved position.
Well, he hasn't moved position either. He's made a suggestion about what might happen in future, but the Brexit deal you despise is now the Brexit deal you're asking people in 317 constituencies to vote for.
No, I'm not, because the Prime Minister said last night we are changing direction, and that was the reason. In the end, the decision became quite easy.
Haven't you been outplayed and outclassed by Boris Johnson?
No, I think I've outplayed and outclassed the Conservative Party, who, under Mrs May, were taking us into a horrible cul-de-sac that could never have resembled Brexit at all. The Brexit Party, winning the European elections, reset the political agenda. We have a new Prime Minister who, whilst I was not happy with his deal, made some big changes to his position last night. Now, look, I know that what gets promised and what gets delivered can be two different things.
Well, look at you last week and this week.
I fully accept that. Well, what do you mean?
Well, look at what you promised last week and look at what you're delivering now.
Well, what I promised last week
600 candidates.
Make sure is that I could have still done 600 candidates, and if Boris Johnson had not said what he said last night, I would have done.
Wayne Bailey, who until lunchtime was your candidate in Crawley, a Conservative-held seat, tweeted today, F your election strategy and F Boris. Very disappointed to see Nigel bottle it and back the EU treaty agreed by Boris. Have you bottled it?
I do not back the EU treaty and political declaration as backed by Boris. Of course,
you're
I
asking
don't
people
back
to vote for it in 317 constituencies.
And do you know what? If it comes before the European Parliament unamended, I would vote against it. Be in no doubt.
But you want people to vote
that.
for it in 317 constituencies?
No, I don't. I want people to vote for Boris's pledge last night that says he is going to change it in two fundamentally important areas. And what we now have to do is to make sure he keeps that promise, which is why we will turn the Brexit Party's fire onto Labour constituencies, 140 of which have never had Conservative MPs and now have a Labour Party who have broken their promises to them. They will leave constituencies now being represented by Remainer MPs. And if we can get enough people into Parliament on that ticket, we will keep Boris honest to his pledge.
How will you keep him honest? You think he's dishonest?
I think that a lot of people in career politics say things in elections to get elected and then sometimes change tack or position. I want to make sure that what he said last night, he sticks to.
How?
And if he does...
How do you do it?
Well, it's very easy, isn't it? Because if we have a Brexit party sitting in Parliament and a Prime Minister that breaks those pledges, he knows he will bleed votes in a very large and very quick way to the Brexit party. It's a great way...
What, in a future election in 5 years' time?
It's a great way of keeping him honest.
You've not explained how you're going to keep him honest, though, but the threat of maybe winning an election in 5 years' time.
British politics is at a state now where trust is very, very low, and people can.
How much do you blame yourself for that?
And change how. Well, I've tried to bring trust back into British politics by trying to make things accountable. And I think all the while you're part of the European Union, you're having pretty fake general elections where so much of our life is not even decided by Westminster.
All right. Will you refund the money would-be candidates have spent?
We have an issue with that, and we must try and recompense people. I've got people out there. I warn them, by the way.
Well, will you refund their money or not?
Eddie, I warn them all face to face that
you might change your mind in a week.
If circumstances changed, I did this over the last 3 months. That if circumstances changed, we may have a different situation. And I'm sorry for people that have put their time and their money
the people who believed
on the line. Well, they still believe me, actually, and I have to tell you overwhelmingly.
Do they? F your election strategy and F Boris, says Wayne Bradley.
Well, that's one. I'll give you 200 others if you want to read those out, if you've got time on the show. I doubt you have. Overwhelmingly,
go on.
People have... I tell you what, if I send them to you now on email, will you read them out?
Oh, I thought you were going to read them out to me. Forgive me, right.
No, I'm not, because we're going to hit the news.
How much money have you raked in with these non-refundable £100? It's about £3,000, I think, isn't it?
We had 3,000 people who applied to be candidates. Yes, that's right.
Are you going to give them their money back?
Of course not. We're a political party set up to deliver a proper Brexit. We have reset the political agenda this year in the most astonishing way.
Well, it is astonishing, isn't it? Last week you took their money, and last week you said they would stand for your party, and this week you changed your mind.
Well, most of them sent the money in 6 months ago, actually. And the truth of it is, if we weren't here, Theresa May would still be Prime Minister.
I'm talking about your accountability to the people who've given you money.
People who've given me money believe that the Brexit Party is here to deliver Brexit, and that is what we're going to fight our damnedest to do.
You said they would stand last week in the face of everyone saying this was madness. You said, no, 600 candidates, unless Boris Johnson backs down. He didn't back down.
Yes.
Are you going to put your money... You can't blame the EU for this. You can't blame Theresa May for this. Why don't you open your chequebook and refund the money you've let down?
I suggest you play to your listeners the short clips of what he said last night.
I suggest you answer my question. Are you going to refund their money?
His position changed last night very fundamentally.
Are you going to bottle refunding their money as well?
I'm not going to refund their money. They put their faith in me to do the right thing. And the vast majority of them this afternoon agree with what I've done.
Are you a serious political party?
We are a political party who, as I say...
Are you a serious political party?
Well, we're pretty serious because we won a national election within 6 weeks.
But not a serious political party.
Well, if we're too serious, that would be horrible. We're human beings.
Are you a joke political party?
No, we're a serious party that set up, and you know what? We won a national election within 6 weeks.
You promised to publish your European election manifesto after the European elections. Where is it?
Manifesto? What a horrible word.
You promised to publish your election manifesto at the European elections after the election was over. Where is it?
I will publish a contract with the British people, never a manifesto. That's a horrible, horrible word that equates to lie.
Well, you're going to publish a contract for this general election, but you did promise, you were asked by journalists before the European election, when are you going to publish your European election manifesto? And you said after the elections, and I'm just asking you, where is it?
That was a joke. After the elections was a joke.
Yes.
What we did do, though, was begin a debate on investment in the regions in this country, and I'm pleased that now both the Conservative and Labour Party are talking about that. We started off a debate about the lack of broadband connectivity, even mobile phone connectivity around the country, and the other parties are talking about that. And we did, in 6 remarkable weeks, change British politics.
You changed British broadband.
I would love to do it properly, because there are 5.5 million people out there now acting as sole contractors, self-employed people, and they've got to be given an even break.
Since you've had some candidates, you forced them to stand down, are you going to reconsider whether you're going to stand? Are you going to put your £100 where your mouth is?
Thought about it, but we're still fighting in 300 seats, and the thought of me being hunkered down as I was in 2015 with UKIP in one constituency and not able to get out round the country spreading a national message. No, I know what the right thing to do is, and I'm doing it.
People who either don't understand immigration or deliberately, who do understand it but deliberately misrepresent it in public utterances. Thank you, Brian. John in Sutton. Hello, John.
Hello there.
How are you doing?
I'm all right, yeah, good.
What did you want to say, John? Go on.
Well, just about... let me start off with as the lady who couldn't get her husband seen to. Simple. Because there's too many people in the country. If you had an unlimited amount of money to throw at the NHS, and like I said to your researcher, I love the NHS. I've had 4 children with it, and if I've got to wait 2 or 3 hours, so what? There's somebody there to take care of me and look after me and probably save my life. So, all right, I might be a bit inconvenienced. And like I said, I was in America on holiday. I went to a doctor's to get some pills. It cost me £200. Do you know what I mean? Mm. But everything is about, and what you just said there, I think you was like kind of referring to me. People who understand me don't really understand me or doing that.
I wasn't referring to you, John. I'd never spoken to you in my life. I wasn't referring to you.
My type of people.
No, I wasn't.
I do understand immigration. And let me tell you something. I'm from the north, and whatever...
So am I.
What anybody ever says, the referendum was about immigration. Now, the first thing they'll say is, yeah, but what about the 1.5 million Brits that work abroad? Okay. Spread over... How many countries is in 500 million people? In Germany, in Austria, in Spain, in all them countries, in France, everywhere you go, you do not go to an hotel and find an English person speaking there, not English speaking, English citizen working behind the counter. You tell me an hotel in London or anywhere surrounding, and even up the north now, then when you go in, there's somebody with a foreign accent.
And
there.
what's the problem with that, John, if you need staff in it?
No, let me finish.
Okay.
It's not being racist or xenophobic. It's the point is people, it's like, it's a glut all at once. We've always been used to immigration, but you haven't had it like an invasion, like come up the north. London is a completely different place to the north. If you lived up there or you know people, you know.
John,
it's a complete...
John, can I speak now? I did. Well, can I speak now?
Yes,
can I speak now? I'm from the north, in case you didn't know. Right. I'm regularly in the north. I went to university in the northeast, and I'm regularly in the northeast as well. So should we get the whole north? You don't know the north thing out of the way. I do know the north.
Right, okay then.
Right, okay. And, you are quite within your rights to say that you are uncomfortable or you don't like it when you find foreign people at the reception desk of a hotel or a pub or a bar or a restaurant.
Don't put words in my mouth.
Okay, what do you mean?
Every hotel you're going, and now it's up the north. It never used to be.
And is that a problem, or do you welcome it?
No, I don't welcome it.
All right, so it is a problem for you then.
Germany is very German.
Yeah.
Spain is very Spanish.
Yeah, all right.
I mean, I suppose you're saying like I'm a racist, but
no,
I'm not.
John, please. No, you're putting words. John, you've got to let me speak, or this is just you ranting. It's not a conversation, and we don't really want you ranting. Can you stop ranting and let me speak? Yes or no?
Go on then.
Okay, thank you. Right. You are now putting words in my mouth. I have not called you a racist. I don't intend to call you a racist.
Okay,
but what I am hearing is discomfort on your part at the numbers of foreign people that you see at reception desks in hotels and pubs. So that's all I was saying a moment ago.
Exactly.
Right. Now, if we removed them all, right, or just asked them to not stay and to go back home or whatever, if that's what we did, do you accept that some businesses would fail because they didn't have enough staff, some shops would close because they didn't have enough staff, that hospitals would have even fewer people working on busy nights in winter in A&E and in GP service? Let me finish, then I promise I'll let you come back. Do you accept that if we did that, that would be partly the result? And what are you going to do about that? Those gaps? What are you going to do about those gaps?
Yeah, but partly. But in itself, if you removed all them people, like you said, there wouldn't be nowhere near the population need to be served, would there? Really, truthfully, you know.
Well, so the restaurants are full of foreigners as well. There's no people from the north. The restaurants and the hotels that you're talking about, they're all full of foreigners as well, are they? There's no British people using these services.
No, they are now. They never used to be up the north, as you know. They never used to be. As I said, London.
I don't know that because I'm from an immigrant city. So
for 35 years.
I'm from an immigrant city. It's never been my experience, John. Again, I think what we've got from John there is a really typical problem in this conversation. That when you say, okay, I hear you. You don't like it. You don't like foreign people being in the same in the numbers that you see them and hear them. You don't like them being where you are. All right, fair enough. So we remove them. Then what? Tell me. Then what? When you see the evidence, when you read the evidence, when you're told the evidence, when you see a hospital full of foreign workers doing the essential work that you need when you go in there injured, or your child is sick, or your elderly parent is sick and frail, when you see the evidence, do you just forget it when you walk out of the door and still blame immigrants for everything? You're allowed, of course, to have an opinion about what you want your society to look like and your community to look like, but you also need to open your ears when there are real implications of reducing immigration, and they're not pretty, some of them. So let's have that conversation. When I am making a very deliberate and very stark connection between poor staffing levels in the NHS, a crisis of vacancies in the NHS that are feeding into these figures we've seen today on A&E waiting times. I am making an explicit connection between that and woeful politics on immigration. What connection are you making? Marie is called from Raisbury. Hello, Marie.
Oh, yes. Hello. Good afternoon, Sheila. Now, what do you want me to say?
Anything you like.
All right, Sheila, I'm a cancer patient. I've had breast cancer and have undergone chemo, surgery, radiotherapy, and I'm currently having a Herceptin injection every 3 weeks.
Wow.
So it's happening Friday.
You've been through the wars, Marie.
Yeah, it's been... So I'm not thinking about myself. I'm thinking about how I've seen things. And my mother was a nurse, and she was she did mental nursing, so psychiatry, and I can understand what's happening today, and I can see why we're in such a terrible situation. A lot of it has been created by Mr. Clegg. If he hadn't cancelled out the bursaries for young nurses to go through the training and to become chemo nurses, mental nurses, perhaps we wouldn't have to have gone abroad for our many nurses that we now have in the hospitals throughout the country, that we are and we do need, but they also have needs. They need housing, they need schools. They become sick themselves. They get cancer. They have mental problems, and they have children. So we're in a situation where this is carrying on until we start to train our own. We have to start somewhere. And if we keep on going to these countries and take trained nurses away, we are depleting those countries of the very nurses they need themselves. And then we find here, from what I have discovered myself, in the chemo ward, there's a lot of agency nurses, and they're elderly. They get paid more, but they're slower. And I don't want to complain. I feel terrible about saying what I'm saying now.
You shouldn't
but
feel
the
terrible, just
waiting,
say it.
the hanging around, taking up a chemo chair or bed just because your chemo hasn't arrived from the pharmacy because they are so behind, means you're taking up a bed and somebody else is waiting who's very, very ill, either in a chair in the corridor or they...
And
don't
what
get
do you
appointment.
say? What do you say is causing that delay?
The system has insufficient staff, it comes from the top. It all stems
But Marie,
from the top down.
what you said there about the use of foreign staff, that didn't
Yes.
just begin with nurse bursaries being cut. That's been going on for 20 odd years, 25.
Yeah,
Well, in fact, it's been going on for a lot longer than that. But in terms of the
Yes.
scale of it, it's been going on because NHS trusts needed to save some money, and a great way to save money is to just buy in, or it looked at a certain point, because it's getting very expensive to hire agency nurses these days, isn't it? But you saved on staffing costs, you saved on responsibilities, financial responsibilities that you have towards staff members, the pensions and the like that you don't have on contract nurses. But, that's much more than just nurse bursaries.
As you said earlier, it's very hard to have this conversation because it becomes about immigration, political correctness, and that people are scared to say what they want to say. A lot of the reason for the vote for Brexit was because people in this country are saying to try and get your children into school, you have to... I'm not blaming the immigrants for doing this. I'm blaming the governments and for allowing... We're sending aid away when we need it here.
Marie,
we need so much money to be ploughed into the system
we do.
that has failed.
We do. And that's got nothing to do with the immigrants who live here. It's to do with government policy.
Not because they've come here to do something terrible, but they come here to live. They need a house. They take the housing. They get the schooling.
They do a job. They pay their taxes. They have their children.
Listen, so do a lot of everybody else.
Yeah.
And what they're saying is, where at one time it was bad enough 20 years ago to get an appointment, it's now impossible.
All right, okay, Marie. Here's
I see it all on a daily basis.
I know you've been through it. I'm hearing what you're telling me you've seen. What I would suggest to you is that underneath what you've seen, there is another narrative that isn't spoken about. So let me give it to you. Let's imagine for a second that all of these people that you're talking about and their children in schools and needing houses to live in, and the nurses needing houses to live in that other British people can't get hold of. Imagine they all say, do you know what, Marie, and all the Maries who see these problems, we see them too. And do you know what we're going to do for your country? We're going to go home. We're going to go home to Spain, to Portugal,
it's
to
not
Italy.
About that. No, it's not about
hang
that,
on.
Sheila.
I know, hang on. No, but it didn't.
You're making this...
Marie, please let me finish. It is not what you are saying. I'm telling you, it's the logical upshot of what you are saying.
Well, I've been to Ireland recently, and the same is happening there. And it's not about the colour of anybody's skin. It's my Christian belief.
I'm not saying it is. I promise you, I'm not saying it is.
The pot is full, Sheila. And we're trying to push more and more in.
Which pot are we talking about?
We've got
Which
to
pot are we
educate our
talking
own.
about?
We've got to educate
Which pot
our
are we
own.
talking about? What's your pot?
This country, we haven't got... Boris Johnson promised to build, or Theresa May, all these thousands of affordable homes. They haven't been built.
They haven't, yeah.
So here we are in this country.
So whose fault is that?
Come in and there's no housing. We've got terrible problems with...
But is that the fault of Nurse Conchita, who works in Charing Cross Hospital, or is that the fault of government policy badly implemented? It's the latter. And Marie, I hear you. And listen, if tomorrow or in 5 years, 100,000 British-born nurses, young men and women dying to be nurses all of their lives in this great country, would come forward and be able to do it, bingo. I'm not saying we actively have a plan to make sure that we have foreign people in our system because, woohoo, we must have immigrants in this. That's not my position at all. I don't think it's anybody's position, is it? But if we have a health service with 100,000, many of them clinical vacancies in it, what do we do? Yes, we train some of our own, and at that very point that we're due to train some of our own, what do our politicians do? They remove the bursaries for those nurses. It is demonstrable insanity, and it isn't going to be solved in an instant by suddenly training 100,000 young Brits to be nurses. Also, the birth rate will need to go up, Marie, to achieve that. So are we going to do that as well? That's what I'm saying. I don't think for a second that you're sitting there angrily being antipathetic to foreigners. I don't think that for a second, Marie. But I think that underneath what you're saying and what you're seeing is a truer narrative, and it's the narrative of need, real need.
And Lee's in Basildon. Lee, what would you like to say?
Yeah, good morning, James. Yeah, sorry, but I've got to disagree with you. I'm probably one of the ones that's going to say, where does it end? Because I'd say basic necessity, I'd say food. So what we got to do, privatise Tesco?
Pardon?
I said, you're saying having broadband is a basic necessity in the 21st century.
Yes.
Well, I'm saying food's more of a basic necessity. So what do we do? Privatise Tesco, Sainsbury's? I don't know. You tell me.
I don't understand the point you think you're making, Lee.
No, you just said having broadband is a basic necessity.
Yes.
So I'd say a more basic necessity would be food.
Right.
And water.
Yes.
So privatise Thames Water, everyone gets free water. Privatise the supermarkets, everyone gets free food.
They have privatised Thames Water, Lee. I think you mean nationalise.
Sorry, nationalise.
That's all right.
And
So
everyone gets free water.
here's the thing. You know what money is?
Yeah.
And you know that it's impossible not to receive some money, even from the state, if you are a member of British society. Yes?
Yeah.
And you know when you go to Tesco's, you know what you use to buy food?
Yes.
What is it?
Money.
Money. So the reason why we have a welfare state is exactly to ensure that a basic necessity like food is available to everybody. So let's start again.
Okay, well, broadband ain't... But, well, you're just saying the basic necessity. I mean, I know money.
No, we haven't started again, Lee. We've gone back and rewound what we did before. We've dealt with that. I've explained to you the relationship between basic necessities like food and money and the welfare state and taxation. So now we're back to fibre broadband in every home, funded by taxation, and you're here to say, where will it end? Are you?
Well, yeah, where does it end?
Just protect the Christian West. Where will it end? Well, it ends with...
No. What do you mean Christian? I'm not... What are you talking about?
It ends...
Christian West.
It ends with taxation-funded fibre broadband in every home. Which bit of that sentence are you struggling with, mate?
So that's not tax I got to pay then?
No, it ends... You said, where does it end? I said it ends with taxation-funded fibre broadband in every home in the country. So I just want to help you...
Right.
I want to help you with your confusion about where it ends. That's where it ends.
I know, like, you know, so everyone gets free broadband. So, all right, that's lovely.
It's not free.
Where does it end?
It's not free, exactly. And I mean, insofar... Did you go to school, Lee?
Yeah, I went to school, James.
Are you sure?
Pretty sure.
Okay, and it was a state school, was it?
Yeah.
So did your dad turn up at the gate saying, where does it end? Do I get a free car as well? Or did it end with taxation funding your education?
Right, so people going to school, people having, you know, if they have on benefits, they can feed themselves, you know. Obviously, that's a basic necessity.
Yeah.
I just don't see where having broadband is a basic necessity.
Okay, well,
I've
already answered that question. I've already answered that question. I pointed out anybody who holds that view doesn't live in the 21st century.
Well, I'm living, and it's the 21st century. So
and you're using broadband every day, and you're using the internet every day.
Which I pay for.
You're using it every single day.
Personal choice.
Yes,
I haven't got to have it. I don't need it.
Okay.
I don't like, you know.
Well, do you know
like,
what, Lee?
I must have it.
Do you want the good news?
Well, your argument is
No.
it's
My argument's falling apart, Lee. But do you want the good news?
So
No,
what's
Lee,
the basic
I've got great
necessity?
news for you.
You've not got a basic necessity, James. The basic necessity is eating, drinking, water, food. That's basic necessity.
Lee.
Like a home to live in, out of the elements.
Lee, do you want the good
Watching
news?
Netflix.
Actually, housing. Why are we
James,
talking
you've
about?
lost.
Yeah,
You've lost.
Okay, can I speak
It's
now?
not a basic necessity, is it?
No, Lee. Here's the good news. When they come round to your house to fit it, you don't have to let them in. You can carry on
Well,
if you want paying
it's
via
already
pay.
fitted.
But you just said you don't want to pay for it. You're literally saying, here's the thing I use every day. I currently pay for it. It could be funded by taxation. I don't want that. I want to carry on paying. And I'm pretty sure that if you ask them nicely, they'll let you, Lee. Seriously.
Joyce is in Henley. Hi, Joyce. Hello, good morning.
Morning,
good
afternoon. Yeah.
What a bizarre idea.
Bizarre? Why?
Well, in relation to the fact, yes, somebody will say she lives in Henley, but I've lived in Manchester all my life and worked for it.
All right.
But yes, if I can pay £10 a month for my broadband,
yes,
why would they say, you can have your £10 back?
Yeah, I don't know. I think most people would be prepared to pay a little bit for super fast broadband, wouldn't they?
Well, I want that money to go to the National Health Service like everybody else.
Yeah.
The National Health Service, of course, are complaining they need more money. Now, a typical one, if you can get on the internet quicker if they do this, then what about the small business? I may go to my computer and think, I'll go and buy a jumper off the internet. It's too slow. I go down the road instead and buy a jumper in the village. Consequently, the faster it is, more people definitely will use the internet for shopping more than they do now.
Right. Well, you see, this is. I've got a text here on a similar subject that says the policy is not the headline. Says Gary. The headline should be that the days of commuting will all but end. The reduction in vehicular carbon emissions would be huge. The redistribution of the workforce would rebalance geographical inequality. Self-taught skills via online learning. No. I remember them saying this about computers and how we'd all...
You know what will happen? I've just heard that man say 300
megs. Yeah.
And he says, and then you can have it every room. Now we're saying, let's put these children, teenagers, young people in a house where they can, all 5 of them, never have to speak to each other because they're all around the machines. Now, they don't need to go out in the world to meet other people and then go on the train and the bus and go to places. They'll all work from home. We wonder why they're having nervous breakdowns.
This is why we always get told what the future will look like. From Woody Allen through to, Future World, we're always kind of saying this is what the world's going to look like. We've never got it right. We've got no clue what's going to happen. I remember when I was growing up, we were told, look, computers are coming in, and so they're going to do, an AI is coming in, and they're going to do all this work for us. There'll be no need for people working at all, so we'll just have to think of things to do in our leisure. And what's happened? We're actually working more than we did because there are more things to do. And I think and I'm not being a Luddite because I love technology and I love the future, but I think the faster things get, the faster and more sort of stressed out we're going to get. And while I think this is brilliant, we always want more. We want it yesterday. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And that's why it's so nice sometimes to just go for a walk in the woods and go, the birds.
But you don't, do you? Because your machine's there, and you go and press the button.
That's right.
Nice and quick.
You're walking across the road looking at you're looking at your phone and hit by a bicycle. Thank you very much indeed, Joyce. And Freddie says, one of the reasons why not many vote for the Green Party is because the media, unfortunately, including you, Ian, misrepresent them as a single-issue party. The fight to mitigate the effects of climate change is the most all-encompassing issue. 03456060973 is the number to ring if you'd like to talk about this. Josh is a first-time caller. Are you voting on environmental issues? And if not, why not?
Ian, I won't be voting on environmental issues because, from my perspective, there's more important things to be voting on. Tell me. More important than the safety and the health of the planet? Yeah, well, from my perspective, I'm an environmentalist. So do I think we've got a problem with plastic? Yes. Deforestation? Yes. Population? Yes. But is there an agenda that's been put out there over the last year, 2 years, which talks about this climate emergency, an urgency around climate, which, quite frankly, doesn't exist? Are we going to have this? Are we really going to have this argument again, Josh? Nope. At the end of 2019, climate change is a myth. Really? I'm not saying it's a myth. Oh. Ian. I'm not saying it's a myth.
What are you saying?
No, I'm not saying it's a myth.
Exaggerated?
No. I think climate change is happening.
Okay.
The question is it what the effect is of man or humans' impact on it?
Whether it's our fault or not, we should still try and stop putting poison in the air, shouldn't we?
Yeah, I agree. And do I think we've got a problem with deforestation, plastic, mining, etc., overpopulation? No one talks about overpopulation.
Oh, well, a lot of our listeners do.
Do they?
Yeah, I've just read a text well. Yeah, no, that's a massive part of it. But if you fly over the world in a plane the majority of the stuff you're going to see below you is not a town full of people, is it? So overpopulation is a thing, but industrialisation is a bigger thing, isn't it?
Yeah, agreed. And 71% of the world's surface is water, isn't it? So
something
when
like
we
that.
talk about carbon, and carbon is 0.4% of the world's atmosphere. 0.4% of the world's atmosphere. 71% of the planet is water. 29% of the planet is land, of which 50%.
All right. Well, let me go back to what you were saying before. What is more important than climate change as an issue for the election?
Well, I think poverty. I think deforestation. I think plastic.
Deforestation. That is the climate change and environment, isn't it?
Yeah, but the question is, can you separate them out and say, climate change is happening. We have to take action to mitigate.
Yeah.
Climate change.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the question is it man-made? So what I'm trying to make a differentiation is everything's kind of conflated and put into one bucket, which is now just called the climate emergency.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that I think climate change is happening. There's a question about mitigation of climate change. Do I think that more carbon into the atmosphere is a good thing? No, not necessarily. However, there are some science that says that more carbon in the atmosphere results in a greener world. We put that to one side.
Well, look, I think the only thing to debate here, there is no debate as to how much carbon per particle, whatever you like, however you gauge it. It's got a lot worse. There's a lot more carbon in the atmosphere than there has been ever before. The only debate is, how did it get there? And when you look at the graph, and you look at the graph beside the graph of industrialisation, they're almost parallel.
Ian?
Yes.
Ian, just 2 points, right?
Yeah.
One is, there's a question about whether warming, goes before CO2,
yes,
or whether CO2 goes before warming.
Right. Well, listen. We could debate this. We've had this debate many times. I listen to the science, and 98% of scientists say we're causing it. So I have to believe them. But you're perfectly entitled not to believe them. But I'm very interested that you think.
Just one thing.
Go on then.
But just the one thing, which is the fact that if you debundle the things,
yes.
Okay, and we say that climate change is happening, so there has to be some mitigation actions. And then we've got to say as well that there is still, a percentage of the world population in abject poverty.
So when you talk about poverty, you're talking about world poverty, and that's an issue for you in our general election, or poverty in the UK?
Well, I think so, yeah, because there are lots of...
Which one? Are you talking about the world or the UK poverty?
I'm talking about poverty in the world.
So which party has the best philosophy in this election when it comes to that, for you?
From my perspective...
I haven't heard anything about world poverty in any of the campaign speeches yet.
No, I've not heard anything yet, no, but I think it's a very good thing that David Cameron brought in the foreign aid budget, and
I thought you were going to say the referendum there for a minute. Anyway, listen, Josh.
No, that wasn't a good idea.
Nice to talk to you.
Well, inevitably, personality is featuring in this election along with politics. And a simple question on the BBC this morning seemed to stump Boris Johnson.
Why are you relatable to families up and down across the country? How can they relate to you and your family?
Well, I think that the best answer I can give is that of course I've been I've had a very happy and wonderful life in many ways. I was the beneficiary of my parents gave me fantastic opportunities, and they brought me up to be very